All right. Peace and greetings, everyone who have decided to join us live, and peace to those who will be engaging this program later. Welcome to our collaborative program this evening. Today, we will explore the question of Venezuela and the role of the working class. We are honored to have with us again the Honorable Fravia Marquez Silva, second advisor to Venezuela's National Assembly and spokeswoman for Cumbe International and recently launched Bring Them Back movement. And we are joined along with with Fravia is Venezuela chargé d'affaires to Belgium and Venezuela's preeminent trade unionist, His Excellency Ambassador Marcos Garcia. Thank you both for taking the time to join us today. Just going to say a few more things here to kind of open us up. We trust both of you are doing well, and thank you for offering your time and energy yet again, given the context of these challenging times. This program is intended to be an interactive conversation as we will be accepting questions from those who have taken their time to join us live. So please place your questions in the chat. Down at the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A tab that you can click on, and then we will address them and pull them into the second part of the conversation, which goes to the format for this evening. We will have our honored guest share some thoughts based on a non-binding framework I sent to them. Again, non-binding is very flexible. And part two, we intend to field questions from those in attendance, you. With this context, to be sure we are following along and to make sure that those who are engaging us with us tonight, I want to offer the framing for the first part of our collaborative program because I think it's important the framework, and I'm going to say it now. I'm going to put it in the chat as well. So tonight we will be exploring the effects of U.S. imperial aggression on the Venezuelan working class. We want to explore the immediate and long-term impact on the working class throughout the hemisphere. What are some ways the working class in the Americas can support the working class in Venezuela and can possibly be expanded to other regions under attack? And how can we think about this moment in a way that can increase class solidarity in the hemisphere and throughout the world? This program is a collaborative project between Shirley Graham Du Bois, William Worthy Media and Friendship Collective, and Africa World Now Project. With this, I would like to turn it over to the Honorable Fabio Marquez Silva and His Excellency Ambassador Marcos Jose Garcia to open our interactive conversation. Before we begin, I would just want to play this quick video, if I may.
Born on November 23, 1962, in Caracas. Not in a luxury home, not into a powerful family. Nicolas Maduro grew up in Los Jardines del Valle, a working-class neighborhood where life isn't guided or taught, it's lived. There, he learned the basics, waking up early, respecting his elders, and understanding that nothing comes easy. Before he was president, he was a hard worker, a Caracas metro driver. That's where something key was born: leadership. Not imposed, but earned, defending rights, organizing, and standing up for others. In his personal life, Nicolas Maduro is not a man who is alone. He is a husband. In 2013, he married Celia Flores, his partner in life and his companion through highs and lows. He is a father, and a grandfather too. And when he speaks of them, you notice something different: a smile. Like any Venezuelan, he loves music, baseball, and remembering his mother. He isn't perfect. He is a man formed by the streets, by hard work, and by family. He's a great man who comes from humble beginnings, and he never stopped seeing himself as part of the people he came from. That is why today, everyone says, bring them back.
All right. And we will go ahead and begin our conversation, and I'll turn it over to our honored guest. And we will start with Ambassador Garcia as we explore. Uh, Actually, let's start with Fravia. As you just had the video, let's start with Fravia, and then we'll just open up the conversation there. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good very late night for Marcos in Belgium. Thank you. Thank you for giving us always this space. Thank you for opening for us in order to spread the truth about Venezuela. Um, Comrades, sisters, brothers of the working class across the Americas and the world. Today, we're meeting in a moment of a historic crisis, a moment that challenges our principles, our unity, our commitment to peace, justice, and self determination. As most of you know, on January 3 of this year, the US carried out a large scale military operation against the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, including airstrikes across Venezuelan territory, and they captured and kidnapped President Nicolas Maduro and the Congresswoman, the First Lady, Celia Flores. This unprecedented intervention stands as one of the most serious acts of military aggression in Latin America in decades. Maybe some of you read today in the New York Times, there was a piece by President Lula of Brazil explaining part of this, rejecting this international law violation, but explaining how America has been an area of peace for more than 400 years, and we never saw something like this. This was not a peaceful diplomatic process. This was not a legitimate act of the international law. It was a violent incursion into a sovereign nation and a direct assault on the rights of the Venezuelan people to determine our own future. So, one of the questions raised here were the effects of the US imperial aggressions of the working class in Venezuela. And the first and most profound victims of this intervention are the workers and the families of Venezuela, the manufacturing workers, public sector employees, educators, nurses, and all of those who daily effort sustain the life of the nation. Working people in Venezuela have already endured years of economic hardship. Fuel shortages, inflation, international sanctions, pressures that disproportionately impacted everyday life long before January 3. And now, with these military strikes echoing in the various communities, we have been traumatized. Even though we're in peace and we are showing up for our president, there is a lot of uncertainty about the future. And let us be clear, US aggression is not an act of liberation for none of us. It is an act that undermines peace, disrupts our social stability, and endangers the lives of millions in Venezuela and in Latin America. Every bomb drop, every explosion heard in Caracas and beyond shake the foundation of the working class life, threatening homes, infrastructure, jobs, and the dignity in general in Venezuela. What would be the impact also is one of the other questions of in the working class through the hemisphere. From my point of view, I know Marcos will talk more in deep about this. The consequences of this aggression are not contained within Venezuelan borders only. It is across Latin America and the Caribbean, from Mexico to Argentina. Workers look upon these events with alarm, I'm sure, and sorrow, because the violation of one nation's sovereignty is a warning to all. Leaders in countries in all the region, including Brazil and Mexico, as you know, the president lady of Mexico has been going back and forth with President Trump about it, have publicly condemned the US strikes on Venezuela, and it's a threat to peace and regional stability. So we understand that imperial military intervention reverberates far beyond the battlefield. It drives up, displaces. It can be the displacement of families, and of course, it could provide justification for reactionary forces that would suppress workers' rights because it is under the banner of security or the banner of order. So it will weaken regional cooperation, undermine democratic processes, and emboldens those who would prioritize economic interest, such as access to oil, of course, over the human life and the dignity. So the working class in the Americas needs, and I know most of them are in support of the working class in Venezuela in the face of this aggression in different ways. We will be talk about the ways you could support later. I will leave it to here so Marcos can go ahead and give us his insights. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, brothers and sisters, for this opportunity. Um, well, the video you saw is about a president, our current president, gets kidnapped in the U.S., New York City, and trying to present him before the court to face some accusation of drug trafficking without proof, by the way. The president has been an active of his life. Well, I have the opportunity to work with him in the Metro de Caracas Transport Workers Union in the 90s. I was operator in the station, metro station operator. He was metro bus operator. We managed to organize a very radical trade union organization at the time. We got some very important victories to our movement. We were considered as what is known in Latin America like as a working class movement, classes movement at that time. The situation of the aggression is important to explain that there is no legal basic for that, because first, when the U.S. began to deploy the float on the Caribbean, the argument they used was that it was to contain drug trafficking. But international agreement about the struggle against drugs said that you need to use police and court to deal with drug trafficking. You don't need missiles. You need a military force to be involved in that issue. So that is a violation of the international agreement, the deployment of that float with the argument of combating drug trafficking. That's the first thing. Then the second thing is that Venezuela doesn't have any kind of production of drugs, or the level of traffic in the country is very low, about 5%. And in the last year, from that 5%, 70% was seized by the operative of the police. So there is no argument at that level. Then we have this aggression, and there is like, can I say, a metaphor, story that they are saying, well, it's not a violation of international law because they are dealing with drug trafficking, and it's just seized, and like taking some guy on the street and, well, and put in jail. And no, they went from the US, they get into another country, they kill a lot of people, and then they seize the acting president and his wife. So that's a violation to a lot of things. The immunity of the president, the immunity of his wife. His wife is also a member of the National Assembly, so they have immunity as member of the National Assembly. And then, the aggression, the military aggression, that is illegal because it was not authorized by the Security Council. And well, there are a lot of things in that sense. In terms of the consequence for the working class, well, the aggression is not new. Now we are talking about military aggression, but the economic war began, not exactly, but it was like legally established with the decree of President Obama back in 2015 that declared Venezuela a threat to the U.S. interest in the region. When a country lost its income, foreign income, We lost about 90% of our production of oil we couldn't sell because it was through the coercive measure. It was making impossible. We were expelled from the financial system, or our active outside the country were freeze. Our accounts were freeze. We couldn't use the financial system to do any operation. Couldn't get anything from that. And the consequence was that the economic situation deteriorated. There were times where it was difficult to get to live with a salary. The Venezuelan government was obliged to develop alternative programs to support workers and in general the Venezuelan population, because the salary were not enough due to the coercive measure applied by the US and the European Union against the Venezuela, Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. So I remember there was some situation where the member of the trade unions left the trade union without, leadership, because they have to work in other things to get money to sustain the family. It was the kind of thing we faced. There were some years where people was eating just rice and lentils because the coercive measure make it difficult to buy anything else outside the country. And even the guy that was working in organizing the trade of food inside Venezuela was put in jail by the U.S. A diplomat, Venezuelan diplomat. So in the region, this kind of politics of aggression, if you analyze what's happened for instance, in Argentina right now, but it happened in the past also, you have a very extreme right-wing government with radical neoliberal agenda that destroy the social system that support workers' family. And in general, they attack the income, social income and salary of workers. That's their agenda. In the case of Venezuela, the aggression, this last aggression destroys some center that were used to investigate and develop technologies and knowledge. We don't know what were exactly the military, US military, were thinking, or the Trump government thinking about that. But of course, it's something very dark in terms of what they wanted to do with our country. More than 100 people killed, people living in his house, just where I live in Catialamar, a housing building was hit by a missile. Well, working class in Venezuela have been working very hard. Trying to overcome this. It's not easy. We are in the process of reorganizing. There was a Congress in December 17, the International Congress of the Latin American, Caribbean, and World Working Class in Defense of Peace. This Congress was organized in the framework of the National Congress to reorganize the working movement in Venezuela. It was an international Congress and also a national Congress going on at the same time. The National Congress was the participation of people, of working class people in this Congress was huge, about 66,000 delegates. In the International Congress, there were about 100 delegates because of the blockade, the U.S., the airlines going into Venezuela. In the International Congress, we made some important agreement. Our objective in that Congress was to analyze the economic and military aggression against sovereign people, not only Venezuela, and characterizing the nature of the current imperialist military aggression against the people of the region within the international context of the emergence of a new multipolar world order. Reaffirmed from the working class the Declaration of the America and the Caribbean as the zone of peace, free from foreign interventions, as established in the Havana Declaration adopted at the CELAT Summit, defending peace as the supreme good achievable only through social justice, dignity, and sovereignty, and also to debate and approve a joint action plan to articulate our national struggle into a global strategy against the current threat of war in the region, consisting of concrete action, solidarity, mobilization, and denunciation. So that in December, we're already working very hard because we knew what was coming at this level of the organization of solidarity activities. Then there was a manifesto. I can send the manifesto to the brother here, so I'm not going to read that. But some of the idea we have was to create a network, a solidarity network, and develop or organize internationalist brigades. We call them Simón Bolívar International Brigades, with different perspective or activities to carry out by this brigade. Also, we talk about a world meeting of international brigades, Simón Bolívar, in Caracas, the first quarters of 2026. Also to activate and promote the working class diplomacy, proletarian diplomacies. Some people, in which working class people connected with this initiative will talk with their parliamentarians, trade unions, not unionized workers movement, political parties, social movement, other form of popular organization around the world to explain the situation and trying to organize the solidarity, not only with Venezuela, because that's important to say, but with all the countries under attack in our region. They have been threatening Cuba and Mexico and Colombia. Established delegation of the Venezuelan working class. So we thought at the time that it would be good to have some working class delegation going to Venezuela and see what's going on there and trying to explain that outside the country later. Something important we thought that was the formation of the Popular Workers Communication Front. That's to say, an organization of workers to work in the communication and cognitive area, because we are facing cognitive warfare, and we need to organize the working class in this sense. Well, coordinate parliamentary campaign, promote agreement with global South working class, agreement between organization of different countries to cooperate in this sense. Well, I'm going to stop at this, and then depending on the question you have, we can explain a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you. I was looking for my video button there. Thank you for that, and making sure that folk know that what you were just talking about, Ambassador, was the Workers' Congress and the declaration that came out of that, and we can share that as we kind of move forward. And Fravia, of course, is leading us into really kind of the second question that I put into here. What are some sorry, we'll go to the third question here. What are some ways the working class in the Americas can support the working class in Venezuela that can possibly be expanded? I think, Ambassador kind of highlighted those, but Fravia, you're talking about, the Bring Them Back campaign and other ways. And of course, Ambassador, can you speak to other ways that working class can have some, substantive support at this particular moment? And so, Fravia.
Yes, of course. I know the working class in Latin America, especially, but throughout all the Americas, is always very in solidarity and very supportive of Venezuelan working class. They always show up for us. But right now, we need more visibility. There is a campaign of lies, as usual, by the mass media. A lot of things that they are being said, and as I said before, also uncertainty. And it is uncertainty also, especially for the working class, which is the majority in Venezuela, in every country, but in Venezuela, of course. We started a Bring Them Back campaign, as we did with the Free Alexa campaign. This campaign is connected to the government, and we are developing chapters or in several countries. Ambassador Garcia also can talk about this effort. We want people to bring the news, to spread the news about Venezuela, what is happening to our president and Congresswoman Celia Flores, First Lady in New York. For instance, supposed to be the next audience, in the next presentation in front of the judge in March 17. So we have been receiving a lot of support from different groups, if they are, protests, or if showing films about the life of the president. Anything you can do will help. And also, I will leave in the chat the address of the president and the first lady in the detention center in New York, because we also are calling on this campaign to write them. It's very important to keep the spirits high at this moment, and also to bother all the security officers inside the prison, because they need to open every letter, take a copy, and bring it to them. So in that way, we're showing all of them in the US with real, acts and facts, that that is a man of the people, that the Venezuelans in Latin American countries really are against what they did in Venezuela. And because this opened the door for this to happen in any other place. So we would like to, of course, that the unions and the working organizations pronounce themselves, of course, especially in the US. But we understand how complicated and how big is this landscape in the US. We are trying to reach out to unions in New York and in the US in general, to try to sensibilize them about what's going on, because this is really a union leader that was taken, that was kidnapped. Marcus?
Yes, that's a very interesting thing about this. The president was a member of the trade union for many years. And well, we were militant at the same time. We were young. I remember that. Even in the student movement before that. Uh, in terms of the solidarity, how to build that, the experience we developed here in Brussels was that we organized in the city all the organizations that are against the violation of the international law and against the detention well, it's not the detention, kidnapping of President Maduro and his wife. What can we do? As I was talking before about the effort you are doing in the South to organize workers, but it's something more or less similar. It's important that the trade union organizations to make a statement explaining their position about this situation. That's very important. I take into account that his president is a working class guy. He came from our movement. He became president mainly because he developed the knowledge he had in the trade union movement, organizing, fighting against repression, fighting for the rights, collective agreement, all those stuff that unions do on a daily basis. The trade unions know that it's a very tough job. Every single day there is something we have to do. So that's the first thing, statement establishing the position of the union, then trying to organize activities of solidarity. Here we organize protests inside the U.S. Embassy, inside the European Union, inside the Foreign Affairs Ministry. There are other films and discussions, that can be organized at the level of the city. And if you organize online, it will be easy, just like this activity, though you can get people from different countries and do that. That's one of the things I think is very, very important. We receive a lot of trade union statements about 2000 from different organizations, not only trade union, workers' organization, cooperative organization, and all around the world, Africa, US, Caribbean, South America, and Europe. And that's one of the things that we can do that is so important. Sensibilize the workers' organization about this issue, because this issue is an aggression to workers' rights. It's a violation of the international law and the national law in the US. Something very serious that we need to take into account. We are ready to connect. If once you need information, you can contact us and we'll help you in terms of all the things we have been doing on these days. As I told you, we at least here in Brussels organize a general meeting of organization. We planify all the activities, and right now we're trying to develop like specific teams to deal with specific things that are important to deal with. That is the way in which we're working. It's still a very long struggle. It's nothing that will end uh, in short term. So it's something, and besides, it's something that is very, very difficult to solve, because I haven't seen on this statement about Cuba. The U.S. government think that they can, you know, go into Cuba and change the government or have a government that they like because they don't like the Cuban government. That's something very uh, difficult to explain in the current times. Then you have the situation in the with Europe, uh, and the president, U.S. president, said that he wants to take up Greenland, as it is, something that you can do just for an statement and say, well, I like this land, I want this land for me. So that's the kind of thing we're facing, that levels of arbitrary behavior. And anybody that has been working in union knows what it means, you know, when the bosses doesn't respect the law, and then you have to organize and fight back to defend your rights. That's more or less the situation, to put it in trade union terms, which are more easy to understand. So that's the thing we've been doing. There is a lot of things that have to be done still, working in the communication, social media, trying to produce more friendly information. There have been discussion here about that, and we're working on that this week. Next week we began to work on that. Well, that's what we believe that can be done in the following days. Well, and trying to connect at international level. We already have a network in Latin America and the Caribbean, and some people of the US are connected with the network. So if you are interested in getting in contact with that, well, just say that and send your contact detail. Well, we can begin to talk. Okay.
Yes, I would like to jump in and also add like we must frame this not as a dispute between governments, but as a struggle for the rights and the lives of the working people. We can see clearly now that imperial aggression does not lift up workers, it tears them down. It widens the inequalities. It strengthens the hand of the elites who benefit from conflict. And it weakens workers who lose homes, jobs, hope. So there is a choice. So, will we accept divisiveness and allow powerful states to dictate the destiny of ordinary people, or will we come together across borders, languages, cultures to declare workers' rights, peace, and self-determination are non-negotiable? Because this is the base of what's going on here. It doesn't matter if it's Venezuela, Cuba, Mexico, Greenland. It is the same. So it's about choosing unity, solidarity, and peace, and about make our voices stronger in unity. So everything that Marco said, if from the Bringing Them Back campaign, we are available. You can get my number through Mr. Pope and Mr. Obi, so we can help you, you know, with spreading the news, what is really going on in Venezuela. If you need, I don't know, images, high resolution images, because you would like to share or because you want to show a film in any different language, English, Arabic, French, Italian. So we want to support the movements that are really in solidarity and want to move ahead and show that Venezuela is not alone, that Latin America is not alone, and this is wrong in general for the world because it's not only us.
No, thank you for that. And we really was able to kind of touch on a number of the framing questions that non-binding framing questions that we kind of set out. And we're in a moment where a lot of people are being bombarded with a lot of information. So there's a campaign to unpack a lot of that disinformation and misinformation. But also, the clarity in this imperial aggression has a long history. And then, of course, the solidarity that the working class, not only in the Americas, but also across the world, should be very, very mindful of. This moment of kidnapping, a sitting president, is a long tradition, unfortunately, of those incursions. But in this particular moment, it becomes very, very important. I wanted to pull in a question from a colleague in Atlanta, if I may. I'm going to read this live, if it's okay, and I'm going to put it in the chat for you both, okay? Um, and I say I'm going to read it live because I may mess up here. Let me. I'm going to send it to you both, Fravia and Marco. So, all right. So I'm going to read this question live for us. Okay. So in Atlanta, we have formed a coalition to defend Venezuela and are distributing a flyer tomorrow at the annual MLK March in Spanish and in English. That also announces a community meeting on Saturday, January 24th, to support the Bolivarian Revolution. Where should we send a copy of our flyer, photos, and other information about our ongoing support? And that is from, our colleagues in Atlanta. So I guess we can put, if you wanted to put that information. Thank you, Fravia, you're asking that question. Yes, thank you. I guess, if there aren't any other questions. Oh, Moiza Matali asked, what are some specific support would working class folks in Venezuela want to see from the African world, specifically looking at, continent of Africa? Ambassador, you talked about, the relationships with the working class on the continent of Africa and other places. I don't know if you want to kind of unpack that or address that yourself.
Yeah, well, in the when we began to talk, there was this thing about the why some organizations are not so in solidarity with Venezuela, but the members of the organization support the struggle. And the thing is that, in countries under the influence of imperialist interests, most of the formal trade union organization, for them, is very difficult to express support because of the context where they exist. The reality of dealing with social media, if you express an opinion that they don't like, and it happened also even with different organizations like political parties, left political parties, is something very common. But when you get in contact with organization in the global south, so African or Asia, it's very easy. It's very easy. So there is no discussion about the reality. Why? Well, because they live or they have exactly the same experience in their countries, in their struggle, in their history. In terms of the African Afro-descendant organization in the US, we organized a congress, an international conference in the 2019, and there were a lot of discussions about promoting an international organization to coordinate the relation between the different organizations at that time. It was a big effort, but it's successful up to now, mainly because the organizations have a lot of constraints. In terms of, most of the members have to deal with a lot of things at the same time, family, the job, the political activity, and it's not easy. It's really difficult to organize our people. Venezuela have a lot of people that descend from African people. Some people talk about 60, 64%, but there is a problem of appreciation, of understanding who you really are. In my state, for instance, Marquez State, about 60% of the population are African descent, but most of them don't think it that way. But some other do think like that, develop the consciousness of who you are. And it's important. Why? Because there are a lot of African descendant workers living in Venezuela, that's the main reason. We're making effort to promote our organization, to organize the connection. But well, it's a work or activity that will take a long time. It's not something easy. We thought at the beginning, 2018, we make this big conference with about representatives from more than 50 countries, Africa, around the world, in Caracas. We thought it was easier. No, it's not so easy. There's a lot of work. We need to connect, we need to talk, we need to know each other, to exchange, and see that our reality is very similar, even though we live in different countries. And you're facing here these racist politics, this police aggression, And what happened with that is that, the same guy that I'm doing this to you are trying to do the same thing with us. We are trying to do a long time, this time since 1999, But they said that it's democracy, that they promoting human rights, that they defending freedom. That's the argument that they talk about. But when you see what they do, you find out and you can be clear that that's not the truth. What they're trying to do is just to conquer our countries, control our resources, and exclude us from access to public policy that may allow us to improve our standard of life. That's what they're doing, to put it in the very simple terms. And that's why you need to be in solidarity with us. And that's why we need to connect. And that's why we need to, to fight together against this effort of US imperialism and the corporative transnational organization to control the resources of Latin America, to just to profit from them and to continue living in the way in which they have been living up to now, excluding everybody that is different from them, ruling the world and then trying to keep doing that, even though they don't have the power to keep this machinery going out as in the past. They are very weak right now. What it seems to be, or they're trying to portray like an effort or the reconquering of Latin America is in fact an effort that it will fail because we are not ready to be a colony of the US again. That's the real reason why they couldn't fail. And they are not controlling our country, even though they say that. And they will never do that because we are ready to fight back. We are ready to defend our independence and the right we have to make our own decision without the interference of international imperialist interests. That is.
No, thank you for that. And as someone who's engaged, in worker movement building myself, just being able to move outside of the perspectives of trade union bureaucracy and workers' gruntlements with leadership, to look at a workers' movement in a broader in a global sense. Fravia, did you want to add to that, or what Ambassador just laid out? Are we good?
I think we good. Most of the people know the common ground. And I think it is very obvious that what is going on is affecting the world and it won't stop soon. It looks like it won't stop soon. So, and even inside the United States, yesterday, I was diplomat to Washington, D.C. I came back to Venezuela in 2019. I have two boys, one of 13, the other one is 8. So they were little when we lived in the US. And of course, they studied there and sometimes they miss their friends and they wanted to go back. But last night, there were, some news and some news channels I can get here by cable service. And the little one, the 8 years old, was telling me, Mommy, where is that? And I said, well, that's Minnesota. Why is that happening? Is is that here? Is that there? I said, no, it is. And why is attacking that man? Well, because they believe it's not a US citizen. He says, Mommy, you know what? I wanted to go back so hard, but now I don't think I want to go back at all. And I told him, not all the US is like that. This will pass. They will get it right. But you're right, this is probably not the time. So it is a convulsive time for all of us, and we really need to go to the basics of what created all our grassroots and union organizations, as Marcos explains, cooperative unions, labor unions, different unions. It is about peace. It's about survival. It's about respect. It's about equality. Is well, I don't know. I also comment the other day to a friend, and I will close with this. It's like the center moves so far that the far right is not that far, and the leftists are like the center. Everything is it is in chaos, is convulsive. there are some things that are not very easy to understand, especially when it comes to economy, to industrial development. When you know put this into the equation with China and what this geopolitical movement or shaking we're living across the continents is happening. Why? But at the end, we don't have to be that complicated. It is about solidarity. It is about that we are all humans. We're in the same world, even though it sounds kind of romantic, but we're going back to the basics. The right wings are going back to their basics or classic, typical, and we need to go back to our basics. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. I wanted to just have a little bit of space for Ambassador if he wanted to comment, or we can go. Okay, the smile says okay. I wanted to see if Obi if he would come on camera because I think it's a good time for us to, as everyone knows, I don't like to close. I just like to pause. If Obi,
You you have my video disabled.
I am so sorry.
It's okay, bro. Okay. Um, yeah, good evening. Just real quickly, like I want to thank Brother James, um, Hope, for coming up with the idea to put this together because this is a shift from our previous encounters because we wanted to address an area that people have overlooked. But most importantly, this is a follow-up from Ambassador Garcia's early days in Washington. Every time he would meet us and engage us, he would talk to us about the importance of following up. So this meeting, this engagement tonight is a follow-up to the December 7th meeting that they had in Venezuela with 66,000 trade unionists. And I think they deserve the ultimate praise for that because we know that historically, trade union through the International Labor Solidarity Center, U.S. imperialism has always used trade unions, as the CIA has used trade unions to infiltrate revolutionary movements in the Caribbean and Latin America and Africa for that matter. So this was a testament to President Maduro in the leadership capacity, but the working people of Venezuela, they're how intuitive they are, how sophisticated they are, and how they were thinking ahead. So if this is a platform to praise them for that effort, but to look at how we can build and maintain working relationships, we're moving ahead of the curve. But I just wanted to say so once again, we've had two press conferences. We had a meeting with women. Today, we're dealing with the workers. And the next meeting on our schedule is one with judges, lawyers, and law students and elected officials. That's what we're looking at pulling together. But I wanted to just close by saying, as people all over the world will be celebrating Dr. King tomorrow, let us not forget that he began to really deal because he was organizing, they were organizing a poor people's campaign through the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And he had a meeting with a local 1199 in on March of 1968. And he raised the question that in our community, when there's a massive unemployment problem, it's called a social problem. But when it's a massive unemployment problem in the white community, it's called a depression. And then one night before his assassination, people know he gave a speech. His last speech is called The Promised Land. But on that same day, he addressed a sanitation strike in Memphis. And he said, when you deal with the workers' question, you are engaged in work that serves humanity for the building of humanity. So it's very important that we understand that at the local level, the national level, and at the Pan African and global level, this is a way that we can build some serious ties for strategic and ideological purposes moving forward. And as usual, Venezuela always answers the call. And I want to say that the Venezuelans would have been here if this was just a normal forum, if it wasn't for the current day crisis in the country. They would have been here anyway. So it's always a pleasure to be in their company, and we look to continue to build these relationships. And for new organizers in a union capacity who want to take the workers' movement to new unprecedented heights, I couldn't think of a better issue than the issue of Venezuela's struggle for self-determination to be your launching pad. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Obi. And I just wanted to, as we again come to our pause, I wanted to give space for Ambassador Garcia and also Fravia for some pausing remarks here. And we will go with Ambassador and then Fravia.
Well, thank you. Yes, I was in the US during 7 years, I think. I remember when I arrived, it was difficult for me to understand I talked with African Americans, so it was so difficult. I live in DC. My English was really basic. I have the experience. The ambassador sent me to a conference with the National Black United Front. I stayed 3 days with them, talking about different issues. I learned how to understand, and talk with the African Americans. It took me some time. But that's normal when you're learning a language. It always happens. I thank you for the opportunity. It's a really important time in history. We are facing the process in which the world is changing to something different. We don't know yet exactly what will be the new world, but we need to make a big effort, collective effort to make it a better place. If you look at what's going on inside your borders, you will see that if you don't make the effort, it will be something worse that you have right now. And when you look outside the border, you will find exactly the same reality. There are time in history when the connections, the relations are more important than other times, when everything is like, very local without too much connection. Right now, it's really important. We need to work together, find a way to connect, find a way to coordinate, to inform what we're doing. In our case, we have been making an effort for a long time, I guess. And in fact, the issue or the reality of a worker like me becoming a diplomat is because of that. We believe in the international relationship, we believe in solidarity, but we know that it's something that had to be work. That doesn't happen out of the blue without any effort. No, you need to work hard, you need to learn, you need to meet the people, to know how they think, how they feel, how they live. That's something so important at this time for all of us. So we make a goal to struggle for the liberation of President Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, mainly because it's something very unjust, because, as he said, he is a decent person. He is a man of solidarity. He is a good Christian, and he believes in freedom. He believes in discussion. He was educated in the school of workers' struggle, very different to any media or owner of enterprises or whatever you want, Elon Musk, Donald Trump. Quite different from them. The problem is that they try to portray us workers as people that don't have the possibility or the capacity to be leaders and to change the world. That's what they're trying to do. And that's not true. You know, we have, of any human being, we have the capacity to create and to transform the world. And if we organize together and we struggle, and we have to struggle in this current condition, we're going to change the world. We make the world a better place for all of us. That's my message, brothers. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcos. Well, I will be very brief. I just would like to emphasize what Marcos says. Let us build a campaign that says we stand with the working class of Venezuela. We demand the return of President Maduro and First Lady Congresswoman Celia Flores. We demand the respect for sovereignty and human dignity, and we invite all the workers across the hemisphere and beyond to join us in this struggle, not just for Venezuela, but for a future where no people shall suffer the consequences of the aggression and exploitations in silence. And that's all. Thank you, comrades. Thank you.
And thank you both. Thank you both for, again, spending time. We are honored that you are able to spend time. And I wanted to piggyback off of what Obi mentioned. You all would have been here anyway, but this moment calls for an uptick in struggle. So I want to again thank those who decided to join us today, and thank others who will be engaging this and also sharing this as we push it out. We look forward to you all at the next one. Again, we explored tonight the question of Venezuela and the role of the working class. Thank you both for taking the time with us.